Hello, this is Laura with Blue Mushroom Studios, and today we are going to be talking about tension. When I'm doing my TikTok lives, one of the most common questions I get from beginner crocheters is, how do I work on my tension? How do I help control it? So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today to talk about how to exercise our tension and build our muscle memory with our crocheting. So just so you know, today I'm going to be working with a worsted weight yarn. I always recommend it's either a medium weight or worsted weight yarn. I think this is a 4. I love this yarn brand, and I'm going to be using a 4mm hook. I think that's what I grabbed. Yes, 4mm hook. That's the recommended hook for this. So remember, when you're getting into crocheting, you always want to read the label of the yarn and go with the recommended hook for a more accurate stitch. If you want a looser stitch, you can always go up in size, or if you have, half a size, it's really not going to make that much difference. Like if you only have a 4.5mm hook and it calls for a 4, it's really not going to make that much difference. If you go to like a 5 or a 6, you're going to notice your stitches start to get a lot looser. So one of the things that I like to recommend for beginner crocheters is to spend a lot of time on YouTube watching the videos of several different crocheters. There is no right way to hold a hook or your yarn. Whatever you find that feels more comfortable for you. And of course, most of my tutorials are going to be for right-handed crocheters, left-handed crocheters. I'm sorry, it is definitely a different ball game, so you're going to want to make sure you find the videos for left-handed crocheters. I hold my hook, like they call it, holding it like a knife, like if I were cutting something with a knife, or you can hold it with like a fork. I hold mine like a fork, and I hold my yarn, they call it the cigarette hold. I pinch these two, hold control how this moves around, whether it stays firm, and then it also controls the yarn coming in. If I want it tighter or looser, I feel like I have more control. There are a lot of people who use tension rings. I have never really gotten comfortable with the tension ring. They're supposed to be pretty easy to use. I just haven't practiced with them as much. So but that is an option if you want to try those. You can find those on Amazon. They're in my Amazon storefront. They're not very expensive at all. Okay, let's get started. What I recommend first for a beginner crocheter who's learning their tension is to start off simple with a simple stitch. So we're going to be working essentially like a pot holder with just a single crochet stitch. I would not recommend going into a pattern that has a lot of different stitches in it, because until you get your tension control down, you're going to want to just really exercise getting that tension in there. So how I hold it is I pinch it here just so that I can hold this and keep my work stable. I hold this yarn here so that I can have more control over what's coming in, and then I hold my yarn over here. My cat is pawing at the back door. She wants to go outside. Hold on just a moment. I said no interruptions, Toshi. Go on. Go outside. These cats just don't listen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, one of the things I want to mention when you are doing your chains is let the hook do the work. Let the hook grab the yarn. If you're manually wrapping your yarn around your hook, that means you're not controlling your tension because you're letting go of your control fingers. If you're holding it like this with one hand and you're wrapping it and then you're trying to pull it through, you're going to really not have control over that yarn. You're going to want to keep control by letting your yarn or your hook grab the yarn and pull through. See how that's nice and easy, even? And then you'll realize, oh, I'm kind of running out of room here. I need to either pull more yarn, move up, and stabilize it. So I'm really letting my yarn and my hook do all the work rather than my fingers. The hook is grabbing. I'm really just using this hand to wrap, to move it over the hook. And that's giving me a nice, even, beautiful chain. And now she wants back in. It's cold for her outside, and she doesn't think about that when she wants to go outside. Okay. Always make sure you have a good feed of yarn too. If you're running, like I like the center pulls, if you're pulling and it's tight to come out, just go ahead and give yourself some room to work, because you'll also tighten your tension too if this is hard to pull out and you're not giving yourself some room. So always make sure you got a good amount of yarn to work with. So again, I'm using this is a lot wider than what I wanted to go, so I'm going to pull some of this out. I just kind of kept going. So when you're working your chain, you're just going to make sure that you're letting your hook do the work, and rather than trying to manually wrap your yarn with your fingers. So now that we have our chain, we're going to do a single crochet, which means I'm going to use this last stitch as my turn stitch, okay? And I'm going to go into this second stitch here, okay? This is my turn stitch. This is the stitch I'm going to go into. Now when you're working off of, and I've seen a few people do this differently, but the way I like to do it is I like to go into this only one side of the chain. But since this is nice and uniform, I'm able to see which side I want to go into, and it's not all twisted up. I want to make sure it stays that way. I don't want to end up turning and twisting my chain. I want to make sure it stays nice and flat. So I'm going to be using a single crochet stitch to go across here. So I'm going in, I'm going to pull through. Now when I'm pulling through my stitch, I want to make sure that I pull through enough so that I can have a parallel line between my hook and my chain. See that? If I didn't pull if I didn't pull through very much, if I just went like that and I kept it like this, I'd end up with really tight stitches. But I want to make sure I'm pulling through and giving it an extra tug so that these two look similar in size, okay? So you're going to pull through, make sure you're pulling through enough. This cat. And you're going to do your single crochets. And you're just going to keep making sure. You can feel an extra little tug, like you pull that through and then there's another little tug I give it that keeps it, that makes sure that it comes through all the way. Because if you're just pulling it through and you're letting it sit right there at the loop, you're going to probably get a little tight. See how I just cinched that up? See how that just automatically cinched that next stitch up and went under? It's because I didn't pull it through enough. I kept it real tight, and so it started cinching up. I gotta let this cat in. Give me just a second. You're ruining my video. Get in the house. Come on. And then of course she just sits there and stares at me. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep just working on this last stitch, pulling it through, making sure that I really pull that loop through and make it even with the other loop. I want to make sure that they both look about the same size when I'm pulling it through. And you're just going to want to keep going. And the reason I say a small project is because I want you to also learn when you're doing this how to make sure you keep things straight. That's another common thing that people ask me is, how do you not drop stitches? Once you're getting your tension down and you're understanding how to make sure your stitches are uniform, it's going to make it a lot easier to not miss stitches. When your stitches aren't the same size, if you get one really super tight one and one really loose one, it's going to be easier to miss that tight stitch. So you just want to make sure that you're making sure that they're all nice and even, and just go slow. There's no race. You're just going to go slow to make sure that you're really getting a good comfortable feel like that. Now you'll know you're at the end of your line when you have no more loops to go into. We're at the very end, and the end should look like this. The end should look like this. This cat. Now you're going to do what's called your turn stitch. And that's just a chain that's going to allow you to comfortably turn to the next row and go back into the next stitch. Don't forget to do your turn stitch at the end of every stitch, or at the end of every row. That's going to give you a nice, comfortable room to turn to go back into this stitch. Also, because if you were to leave it at this stitch, it's going to be really difficult to go back into the same stitch. You could, but it's not the same. It's going to tighten it. It's going to not count as a stitch, and it's going to narrow you down. So you got to do the turn stitch, and then you can go back into that last stitch with a single crochet. Now keep watching as I pull that through. Again, I'm making sure that these are even when I put my hook parallel to my work. So we're just going to keep going, and you're going to just keep working this very simple stitch. We're not going to try to overcomplicate things by adding extra yarn overs or switching up stitches. We're just going to use this simple single crochet stitch to help us develop our muscle memory and our feel for it. I've always wanted to teach myself how to hold a hook like this, so maybe I will slow myself down and get really good at holding a hook like this. I'm really slow at it because my muscles aren't used to doing it. My brain's not used to doing it. But I do feel, for me, that it's easier on my wrist to hold it like this. But again, I'm going to recommend you to watch a few crocheters out there on how they hold their stitches, how they hold their hooks or their yarn. There's a lot of different ways to hold yarn too. See, I let that one get a little loose. Do you see how that one is a little more loose than the others? I had it pulled through too far when I went back around. This is also how I like to make sure that I'm not choking my hook and I'm leaving just enough room to still be able to slide around, but also snug. And then we're going to go around. And that is pretty much my biggest tips for someone who is trying to practice their tension. Just take it to a simple stitch, keep going back and forth, make yourself a little pot holder, and just practice it. Now, how to make a pot holder? So one side is really not that thick. You can still kind of feel through it if you were to really like press on it with a hot pan. So essentially you're going to make it the width that you want it, and then you're going to make it the height that you want it, and then you're going to double it over, sew the edges around together, and that will make a really nice pot holder for you. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, comment below, subscribe, and I will try my best to work in some explanations if you're still working at it. But my biggest piece of advice is just to keep going, just to keep trying, just feel it and use a simple stitch. Don't try to use complicated patterns, and don't try to use complicated yarn either. I know some people get, if the yarn is way too thin, thinner yarn is much harder for me to work with. And it can really mess up your tension too. So that's all I've got today. Like I said, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments, and or catch me on a live sometime, and I would be happy to show you. I usually try to do my lives on Saturdays and Sunday mornings, early Central Time. So anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any other questions, and also please subscribe to my channel so you can be updated when I do more tutorials. You guys have a great day.